Welcome csc103 class, and we're going to review our PowerPoint exercise where we actually put together some notes as well. So we try to combine a couple things here. I have a handout here that I did before I even recorded this called Computer Careers PowerPoint Instruct. So these are the instructions. They're in PDF, so you could click on them. They'll open up in a tab so you could look at them that way. So I'm going to run through these steps, and I'll run through them fairly quickly because the steps are here, so I just want to give you a visual. And I'm going to be doing this on a Mac, so it may be a little different than Windows, but I'm a little more familiar on a Mac, so I'll be able to go quicker and smoother on a Mac, and I'll point out any changes that you'll encounter when you work on Windows when you do this. And I'll probably do this in two parts. I'll do setting up the slide master first, setting up your template, and then I'll do the actually creating the PowerPoint, just copying and pasting your content in, which I should only have to show a little bit before you start to, you could just kind of do it on your own. So anyway, it says here, launch PowerPoint and use the Ion Boardroom theme, and then we'll choose the blue design. Now on a Mac, we're going to have to use a design tab, where on Windows you're going to have the option of changing to the blue design right away. They'll have like a little option that you could do that. So I'll go to PowerPoint. Now I'm on a Mac again, and Mac and Windows does have this Ion Boardroom with 2016, so I'll select that, and I could hit create. And on Windows you'd have a create button too. I just double clicked, but there was a create button. And now on Windows you'd get an option of the blue. Now if you didn't get an option, you could still do this in Windows too. You could go to design, and here's some options here. Now I'm on Mac, and I'm going to choose the blue design because I've used that before and I kind of like it, and it goes nice with kind of the lime green color. So when you first get in here, this is your title slide. Now again, these are just placeholders. These aren't text right now. Matter of fact, when you look at your thumbnail, you can't see anything there. They're just placeholders. And what we're going to do is we're going to design our template and get rid of the font that we're using here, the Century Gothic, and we're going to also design the way our slides look with and just even if I went to the Home tab here and I inserted a slide, they have these triangles and different bullets and stuff like that that just aren't very nice. So I'm going to get rid of that. And we're going to set up our slide master so that everything is set up, and then if we have to make changes, we go into our slide master. It's a very good kind of resource to learn to use if you work with PowerPoint, and everybody will at some point. And it'll just save time rather than going back and editing slides after the fact, especially if you have PowerPoints with a lot of slides. So anyway, to get started, what we're going to do is we're going to go into View, and if you don't have it checked, you want to check Ruler so that we see the ruler. We're going to use that when we edit our indents and things like that. We move our indents when we have our list set up. So make sure you show that. And then also in this area, and this will look a little different on Windows, but you're going to look for Slide Master. And you're going to click on Slide Master. Now when Slide Master is open, you'll have this Close Master button, and this is the way you get out of Slide Master. And also keep in mind, you could go to other tabs while you're in Slide Master. You could go to the Home tab and change the font and do all kinds of things in here, and insert things. But then when you're done, you have to go back to Slide Master and close it up, kind of like the way header footer is on Word. So in my Slide Master, what I want to make sure you do on Windows, now it doesn't look like this here, but on Windows you want to make sure you scroll up, because for some reason on Windows it stays right here and it only shows you this thumbnail. So you want to make sure you see the top thumbnail. This is the Supreme Master thumbnail. This is the parent of all the other thumbnails or all the other slides that are down here. So this is the master. So you want to make sure you scroll up on Windows and get to this one. Get to the one where you see the title up here and you see these lists down here. So what we're going to do first, and again, we're on our top master slide, is we're going to go to the title area here, and we're just going to change a couple things. I'm going to change the font, and let me just go to my instructions just to make sure I'm doing it in the right order. And we're going to change the font, the top thumbnail, to Georgia Bold. We're going to make it white, and then we're going to change the other ones to Calibri, and then we're going to start adjusting the lists. So let's go back and do that. I'm going to make this Georgia Bold. Georgia is a serif font. This is a sans serif font that you're looking at right now, and you'll see what I mean. Now I'm going to go to the Home tab, and then I'll change it in here, and I'm going to go to Georgia Bold, and I have Georgia as a recent font. If not, you could sometimes type in G here and it'll go down to it, or you just scroll down, and I'm going to choose Georgia Bold. And it's actually not white, and you might think, well, how do I know that? And I just know it just by looking at it. It looks a little gray. And I'm going to use my font color here and just see how it's kind of gray. I'm going to make sure it's white, and that's just the master, and that every title on all my slides will inherit that font. Now down here for this list, I have these. There's a first list level, a second, a third, a fourth, and a fifth, and they're kind of small. What I'll do is I'll highlight all of these, and I'm going to do two things. I'm going to change the font, and I'm going to go find Calibri. Callibri's a nice sans serif font that all the Office programs use, and I'll use that. It's just a little bit nicer of a sans serif, a little bit plainer, a little bit narrower than that Century Gothic that we had just seen. And then also, I'm going to use this increase font size button. I mean, you could change things here, but with them all selected, it's a whole variety of sizes. I'm just going to click up until I get to like 16. And actually, I think for this video, I'm actually going to go one more, so it's a little easier to see, because I think even the other way was a little small. So it doesn't matter. You could always change that later, but I'll make it a little bit bigger. I think on the instructions I say 16, but that's fine like that. So it increases all of them. So I changed the font and I changed the sizes, so they're all a little bit bigger. And what I want to do next is I want to go into my what's called my first level. It doesn't say first level, it just says master text styles. And the first thing that I'm going to do, now this is a bullet list. I can see it's grayed out here. That means it's on. There's a bullet list, and if I put it back, it'll put a regular bullet because the triangle was like a custom bullet. And I want to turn the bullet off, and I want to make this bold, because I don't need a bullet here. I'm not going to be listing things. I'm actually going to write description here when we create our slides. So that's all I need to do with that. Now when I go to my second level, what I'm going to do here is, first of all, I'm going to get rid of that awful looking triangle bullet. And to do that, I'm going to go up here. Now I'm going to keep it in a bullet list. And again, by second level, it means that whenever you use this increased list level, this is the top one. Each time you hit this increased list level button, it'll go to the next one and the next style and the next style and the next style. And right now they just get smaller, they get indented, and they still use these green triangles. So we're going to change that. And I'm going to go up to my bullet list here, and I'm going to change them to squares. Now, these are kind of hard to see on my screen here, but there's squares right there. Pretty sure they're squares, but I'm going to click on those, and they're squares, and it's real small. And even if you wanted to change the size of that, you could go in here. Now, where would I change the size of that? This little arrow here, just where I was, but then I'd have to go to bullets and numbering, because there's no place to change the size. I go to bullets and numbering, and they have it at 80%. And on Windows, it's like this too. They have it 80% of the size, and I'll put it up to 100%. And you can also change the color here, and Windows has this too. So if you needed to change the color, you can. I'm not going to change it right now, but I am going to change the size. And you can see you could even use a picture, so that's maybe where they found a triangle or something else to use in there. So I'll hit OK. So just to see where I'm at, that was my second list level, and I changed it to a square bullet, and I made it 100%. So that's all I have to do for second list level for number 9 on my list that's here. So number 10 is the third list level, and I'm going to also turn off the bullet list, and I'm going to change the text color to blue, and I'm going to make it bold. So that's pretty easy. And again, remember, I'm still in SlideMaster. Even though I'm on the Home tab, I'm in my SlideMaster's open, and I'm on this top slide. And I'll go in here, and I'll turn off the bullet. And you don't even have to highlight. You could just click here, and that turns off the bullet. And I'll kind of go out of order here. I'll make it blue, and I'll choose. Now what I can do, this is a little different on Windows. On Windows, you'll have an eyedropper here. On Mac, they don't give you the eyedropper until you get to here. But if I click on the eyedropper, I could select kind of I'm selecting a blue from my background here. And that looks even a little, I don't know, it looks a little dark. I'll go a little lighter and pick a little lighter blue. And I'll hit OK. And keep in mind, when you use that color, it'll come up as like recent colors. So I'll change that, and I'll also, while it's highlighted, now you do have to highlight it to change the color, and you do have to highlight to make it bold. That's character formatting. You don't have to highlight it to change the bullet, because that's a paragraph thing. Now one thing I am going to do here, and I'll zoom in a little bit, a little further back here. And one thing I want to do is I just want to align third level right here with second level. I don't need that indented right now because it doesn't have a bullet. So I'm going to grab this thing, and this is my indent icon here, and there's 3 parts of it. There's a top arrow, a bottom arrow, and the little block on the bottom. And to move them all at once, I'm just going to move the bottom block on here right now, and you'll get a little dotted line. I'll just line up that dotted line with the S in second, and that's, I think, pretty good. Looks like it's not quite over far enough, but that's fine right like that. That's all I want to do with that. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to have, this is where it's going to say typical careers, and then we're going to list some careers in our 4th level, and we're not going to use our 5th level. So just to go back here, 3rd level, we did that. Now we're on the 4th level. It says change the bullet setting to numbered, and make sure it's a numbered list and not a bullet. So we're going to make sure it's numbered, and then we're going to make it blue, and then we're going to move the size a little bit and even change the bullet size. So it's really not a bullet, it's actually going to be the number size, but we'll do all that, number 11 for the 4th level. So for the 4th level, we are going to keep it is going to be in a list, but it won't be a bullet list, it'll be a numbered, so I'll click on numbered. And you can see it's really hard to see, it's really faint with that light green. It's actually smaller too, so we're going to change that. I'll leave the color the same. Now I have to go to this drop down now for the numbered list, and I'll go to bullets and numbering, and that'll open up more options. And I'll make it 100% because I don't want it smaller than the text. And I'm also going to change the color, and I'll use that recent color I used. I could use that so it's the same color. Now that's just the bullet. That's not the bullet list, it's just the bullet setting because I'm in bullets and numbering. And I'm on the numbering part. So I'll hit OK, and I kind of want that. That looks good. And then I'm also just going to move this. I'm going to move these things over a little bit. These icons up here, that's kind of the first line indent, and that's the hanging indent, and that keeps kind of the bullet or the numbered separate from the text, so that when you have text that kind of wraps, it'll line up underneath. That's considered, when these are separate like that, that's considered a hanging indent. When this one is in front, it's considered a first line indent, but when one is in the back and these two are in the front, and this little block here helps things wrap, which you'll see once we do that. And you'll even see it with this too. You'll see the same thing happen here. When you click on this one, you can see it has the same kind of setup with a hanging indent where the bullet is out here and the wrapping part is in here, so that if you had text that wraps, which we will, it'll wrap underneath here, not underneath the bullet. So anyway, back to my 4th level here. What I want to do here, and I notice I don't have to highlight. As long as I see these things, this is I'm just going to move this back a little bit to and they're hard to grab. I'm just going to move it to 1 1/4. Just kind of 2 ticks back, just because it doesn't need to be indented that much. And then I'll move this back 2 ticks from where it was. And it should be something like that. I think I said 1 1/4 and 1 1/2, so that they're a little bit closer. I mean, it doesn't, you could go out slightly more if you want to. I just don't want them, I don't need a big space in between them. So that looks okay with the 4th level. Now 5th level we're not going to use. Only if you increase the list level to the 5th level will you have to use it, but you could leave the default formatting there if you're not going to use it. So I'm not going to use that 5th level there, so I'm just going to leave it alone. I mean, you could delete it or whatever, but it doesn't matter. I'm not going to do anything right now. But anyway, that's all I need to do. Let me just make sure that I'm okay if I go through my steps. The last one here was number 12, and 5th level can be left alone. We move these things around. And then what we're going to do is we're going to close our slide master, and we're going to start working on our slides. So I'll go back here and I'll close the slide master, and you might say, well, where do I close it? You just have to go to the slide master tab and then just go close slide master. Now what's going to happen now, you'll be in your regular slideshow and you'll only be seeing your title slide. And this is just a placeholder. So what you're going to type here, you're just going to type computer careers, and then you're going to just put your name here. Well, we're going to put the course, csc103, and you could put your section, whatever it is, and I'll just put Intro to Computing, because that's the name of the course. And I'll just put my last name on here. You could put your last name on there, and that'll be it. And then I'll throw some kind of, cheesy clip art on here. I'll go here, and I'll just kind of look real quick, and I'll look for computer careers, and you'll see all the kind of typical things that you would see for computer careers. When you go to images, you'll find the typical things, jobs, careers. You'll find people looking at each other and working together and all that kind of stuff. Your career, and I think this was one that I had used before. And you don't want to use anything too big. You don't want to find anything too huge. Here's one with lots of wires and stuff like that. And if you use something like this, if I just click on it, and I'm just going to right click, and I'm going to do copy image. I don't have to download it. I could just copy image. And I could go here and I could just paste, and I'm just going to click off so I don't have that selected, and I'm just going to paste. And you could do Control V or Command V on a Mac, and I'll close this. Now if you get the icon on Windows, just paste it as picture. You might have that little icon that'll show up. Just paste it as picture, and then this will also be the same way in Windows. If you double click on it, it'll open up these kind of format styles that show on here. They kind of look like this. It'll look different on Windows. On Windows they'll be up here, but on the Mac version they're here under Quick Styles. But you'll have these things up here, and you could even, I think you could hover over some of these. I'm going to use one that has like a little mirror. It's really hard to see the mirror image there for some reason. Maybe that's one. Yeah, there's a mirror image, so that looks all right. and I'll just make it smaller. And you could do all kinds of things. You could put shadows and all kinds of stuff. I'll make it a little smaller right now. And I'll close up this format picture. I'm not going to do a whole lot with that. And maybe I'll just kind of split the difference here. Just kind of line it up over careers right there, and I'll just do that. And that's all I need for that. Just kind of fills up the space a little bit, uses some blues that kind of match what I'm doing. So that's my title slide. So I'm pretty good with that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create a new slide. And you could just click the new slide button because it'll do the kind of title and content. And I'm going to do that on the next video. But one thing just to get that set up is what you're going to do is we're going to do one for computer engineering. We're going to put a little description, and then we're going to start working with these list levels. And it's important that I show you how to do that so that you're not like putting things that are already as a bullet list into a bullet list again. You're not redoing the work that you already did. And what you're going to do is if you go back here, you're going to go down to your bookmarks, and you're actually going to click on some of the reading. And that's under resources, not PowerPoints, but resources. And it's the CS160 course reader. And that's where it has some information about computer careers. It has articles about history of computers and binary. It has a lot of good stuff. It's like a full textbook online, basically. And it's very good. It's a little dry at times, but computing related fields. And I'm just going to click on this, and this is what we're going to do. Rather than read all this stuff and fall asleep, you're going to make a little PowerPoint for yourself that just kind of takes the basic information from some of these things. So that's what you might do anyway. You might read it and only kind of retain a little bit of it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of make a PowerPoint for ourselves. And there's basically, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slides in addition to the title slide. So the first one's going to be computer engineering, and we're going to work with that. So let me take a break here, and then we'll start making our slides in the next video.